It's interesting to me to meet a lot of Adventist friends who don't understand the difference between the beast and the image to the beast. They think in terms of, well, it's the same. It's just one beast, and no, that's not it. That's not what's going on here. We're about to meet the beast. We can call the beast the New World Order. The beast is a system. The beast is not simply one nation. The beast is a consortium, a gathering, a collection of governments. And how many horns did Daniel see on the beast? 10 horns. The beast we're about to meet is the New World Order beast. And it's going to be introduced in such a way that you won't know what's hitting you, but we'll try and sort it out for a moment. The whole purpose and plan behind the New World Order is to take all of the debt of the nations, which is in trillions and trillions, and in some cases quadrillions. The idea is to take all of that debt and cancel it. Oh, I love it. I'm a fan of the New World Order. Now, the thing about the canceling of sovereign debt is that it doesn't include your personal debt. Are you listening? You're still going to have to pay your debt with interest. Plus interest. I like the idea of canceling sovereign debt. That's debt between nations, of nations. I like that idea because maybe we can get back to buying on credit again. Do you know what buying on credit is in reality? It's spending money that you don't. It's real simple. You can ask anybody on the planet, what does credit mean? Well, it's spending money you don't have. And it's like liquor. It's like a drug. It's like, because I want a car now, not when I can afford to pay for it. Right? And I want a car now for what reason? So I can go to work. So I can pay for the car. We have all of this worked out. You know, it's a very neat arrangement. It doesn't work, but it's neat. The New World Order is going to talk about sovereign debt and a new arrangement. Let me tell you what is part of the new arrangement. This is going to happen real soon, guys. Real soon. What's going to be part of the new arrangement is that we're going to include a global debt for a global government. Debt, I shouldn't say debt. A global tax. So if we have a national tax, a value-added tax, and it's 9 cents on the dollar, the Canadian dollar, the US dollar, whatever, the British pound, whatever it is, we have a VAT tax or what we're going to do is just add a penny for the New World Order. We're not going to talk about it. We're just going to do it. And by the time folk figure out what we have done to them, we will have enough money from this tax to control them. This is where it's going. And we're not even inches away from it. Okay? The problem with the beast is that he's going to look great and he's going to suffer a deadly wound unto death. For all intents and purposes, it's going to look to the whole world that it was a grand idea, a great scheme, but it didn't work. Now, I could go into some of the discussion about what will bring it down. We'll come to that in a few minutes. Look at your chart and you'll see that with each dollar sign, there's another crisis. Things always happen at a crisis. If it's a true crisis, something needs to happen. And something will happen in order to mitigate the crisis, to take some of the sting out of whatever is going on. So let me take a moment and describe this crisis. This is the present crisis. This is the crisis that Bopolny was talking about right here. He thinks that the U.S. economy is going to collapse before this year is over. He's not alone in this. Now, he's basing his on a repeating graph, historic highs and lows and so forth. He says there's a triple fulfillment going to occur before the autumn of this year for the whole world. It's not just for the U.S. So he's looking for, expecting and anticipating a collapse of the U.S. economy before this year is over. Far be it from me to say, ain't possible. As far as my pocketbook is concerned, it's already happened. I'll tell you this, while you're thinking about your little envelope there. For all the years, and that's 35, that our ministry has been recognized as a 501c3 charitable organization, we have always maintained 2 bank accounts. 2 bank accounts, yes. One that pays the day-to-day light bill, salaries, the day-to-day expenses, and the other one is our book account. Every extra dollar or dollars we get goes into the book account. So when we run out of this title and have to print again, we have sufficient funds to sign the contract and say, hurry and ship us our books. That's the way we have done business for 35 years. This month, we've run out of money in the book account. Has never happened. It's gone. Well, where did it go? Try the grocery store, try the whatever store, try whatever. Our support has aged. And with age comes Social Security. And with Social Security comes a little note that says, I'm sorry I can't help the way I've been accustomed to helping, but you understand. So we have an aging support base. We have rising costs. Let's just explain to you what can happen. It's a double whammy or a triple whammy. Elmira or Judy or Tony, somebody in the office says, we're out of a title. We're down to 3 cases left. We're down to 10 or 12 cases left. And we should have ordered a reprint long before this. Well, go on and order it. Well, have we got the money? God always supplies our need. Go on and order it. So you sign on the dotted line. And, of course, who's on the dotted line? Who goes to prison when... Go on and order it. We need the books. Step out in faith. Let's do it. We've been doing it for 35 plus years. And then a week or so after you have sent this one contract, word comes in, but we're out of another title. What do you mean we're out of another title? We only have 10, 15 cases left. Well, if you're out of books, you're out of business. We can't do that. Sign the contract and get the books in here. And here comes triple whammy. Tony comes and says, we need to print 100,000 minimal of the crisis ahead. The perfect storm. Wait a minute, 100,000 of them? That's $25,000 to $30,000. That's right. And so my dear wife, she waits until I get home and comfortable. And she says, there's no money left in the book account. Now wait a minute. We've been doing this for 35 plus years. There has never been a moment when there was no money in the book account. Well, that day has arrived. What I'm trying to tell you is our little microcosm of a business, if you want to call it a business, is just symptomatic of what is going on everywhere. We're not the only people who are struggling to pay the bills. This is going to be introduced as a solution to this. And when there's a crisis, people like the boss say, go on and order it. Do it. We'll pay the bill somehow. Well, it's somehow time. Right here. Now this crisis that is just before us, maybe even a week before us, maybe 2 weeks, maybe days before us, or it'll be introduced when it comes. This crisis is going to be troublesome. It's going to be, the right term would be gut-wrenching. It's going to be, but it's not a death wound. This is the death wound. This is going to set the stage. Preface. This is going to set the stage for a new world arrangement. And the new world arrangement is going to require new money for the United States, for all of the nations, 220 thereabouts, who are going to be part of the new world order. And the plan, as I understand it, is that we want you to come to Davos, Switzerland. Representatives of each government from around the world come to Davos, Switzerland. And this was in 2010. Sign on the dotted line right here. That when this new system is in place, you will back your currency. Whoever you are, you will back your currency with 85% worth, net worth, 85%. There's a little, you can float up, you can float down, but 10 or 15%, that's it. Now this is okay for some people, because they don't owe quadrillions of dollars in debt. We do. We're not in debt trillions. We're in debt quadrillions. And so all these other countries are watching what's going on. And in 2010, the international bankers and governments represented, the United States stood up in front of the world bankers and governments, and the question was posed, will you sign on the dotted line that when this change comes, you will back your currency with real money, real assets? Now, one other thing that was asked was that you will surrender some of your voting privileges with the IMF, which left us controlling everybody else. And everybody else is sick and tired of people with funny money voting them in or out. So representatives of the United States of America in 2010 in Davos, Switzerland, said, we will return home and we will return to Congress and we will vote it. Oh, okay, we all feel better. Congress didn't vote it in 2010, or 11, or 12, or 13, or 14. Ooh, something happened in 15, right before 2015 ran out. That's only about 4 months ago, guys. And here's what happened. The world said, either you get out of the way, you surrender some of this power that you are holding on to, that you don't deserve. You either get out of the way, or we're going to pass you by. And just to make sure you understand what a come to Jesus moment means, we're going to fly the Pope over to talk to your Congress. 5 months ago, guys, the Pope came and met with Congress behind closed doors. Oh, yes, for the cameras, but no. The cameras didn't see. The Pope went to Congress and had his say. And from there he went to the United Nations to have a say. And he assured them that we were going to come to our senses. That we had agreed to what we agreed to 5 years before. And then we started putting sticks in the wheels, trying to slow it down, hold it up, cause it to fail. Why would we do that? Come on, I'm asking you to reason. Why would you do that? Because you ain't got the dough to back up your dough. You understand? We have millions of acres of corn and wheat and soybeans. What do you mean we don't have? If you take everything that the United States owns, land, crops, minerals, everything, real estate, everything, we're still many trillions short. Forget about covering new money. We can't even cover our debt. So everybody who sells their stuff to us and does not want us to fall down, because nobody will be left to buy their stuff. So everyone is searching for a solution. This is the solution, folks. Right here. Right here. Do you know what the SWIFT system is? You know what the SWIFT system is? If I'm a banker in Australia and you're a banker in the U.S., and I need to transfer money between my bank and your bank or whatever, that's done over an international wire system called the SWIFT system. And of course the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the Bank for International Settlements, the World Bank, on and on and on, along with the United States Federal Reserve, are the ones who set up the SWIFT system. Are you aware of what happened 2 weeks ago? That the Chinese and the other BRICS nations introduced their own system to totally bypass the SWIFT system, and they don't even need us anymore. You got to understand, we charged a fee every time they used our service. They don't pay the fee no more. They don't use our system anymore. Not only that, it has been calculated that the SWIFT system could take from 93 minutes to 3 days or thereabouts for the transaction to clear. With the new Chinese and BRICS system that they've just introduced in the last 2 weeks, it's virtually instantaneous. Now, some of you will understand what that means. Someone owes my business money. Someone is sending me money. And I wired it today. So I wait until almost the close of my banking hours for the day, and I say, did that money come in yet? I'm sorry, Mr. Wheeling, I don't see it in your account yet. Okay. I'll call you in the morning. Do that, sir. So I call in the morning. Did my wire transfer come through? Don't see it yet on the ledger. But if the Chinese were wiring money for me, it's instantaneous. You understand? What has happened is that we have bullied the world, pushed the world to the wall, and said, you're going to play by our rules and our game and our funny money. And the world has said, no more of your rules, your game, and your funny money. No more. We're not talking about what's coming. We're talking about what has arrived. If something is not done to kick the can down the road within the next, I'm going to say, month of May, if something doesn't happen, who knows what a taco at Taco Bell is going to cost? Who knows? I mean, now this is what I believe based upon my reading of Bible prophecy, my reading of the spirit of prophecy. This is my guess, okay? I believe they're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. I believe we're going to kick this can down the road. We're going to do it with a shell game. We're going to take their currency and their currency, which is asset-backed, and ours is not, and we're going to put their currency in our banks, deposit it in our banks, and say, we're covered, we're backed. And that's fine. I'm not opposed to that plan. As a matter of fact, I'm not opposed to any plan that keeps us from going down the tubes. Short of the mark of the beast. We're not there yet, guys. We're not there yet. Now, here's the hitch in this get along. Here's the hitch in kicking the can down the road a bit. I believe there are going to be glorious pronouncements and announcements, and we're going to all look forward to many years of worldly prosperity. And they're going to point fingers at people like Wheeling, who's a doomsayer. All he's ever done is scare the britches off of everybody when he shows up. All doomsayers, all naysayers. And it's going to look good. It's going to look good. Now let me tell you what bothers me about looking good. This crisis and this system is an announcement to Christians everywhere who read the Bible. This is an announcement that the time of the end has come. And instead of running out and buying this and doing that and taking a cruise and all the rest of it that, this is the time to go buy yourself a rake, a hoe, a shovel, and some seed. You listening? This is the time. But human behavior always comes out. When there's a crisis, you can't get in the churches. They are full. Oh, Lord, help us. Oh. As soon as the crisis is gone, I wish Adventists didn't behave that way. They do, because they are human beings. And this is the way human beings react. This is the way they behave. If the pressure is on, oh Lord, help us. If the pressure is off, let's take a cruise. Now Jesus put this in this way, in these words. Work while it is day, because the night is coming. When no man can what? Work. So if we're going to print books in our little ministry, if we're going to, whatever it is we believe God wants us to do and He makes a way for us to do it, we got to do it. Because something is going to happen right here. Now, by and by, you're going to see some of the statements, and I'm giving them to you. Some more handouts by and by. You're going to see statements from her pen, in which she said, there are scenes before us. And she says, overwhelming surprise. That's not a happy day surprise. That's this surprise right here. Overwhelming surprise is coming. A crisis is coming that will bring the soul face to face with death. That's what's coming. This crisis is genuine. This crisis is real. But it's mild compared to what's going to happen here. And if you listen to Bo Polney or others of his kind, all of this could happen within a 12-month period of time. We could go from heaven to hell very quickly. Now, I don't know, and I'll give you a Bible in a few minutes. I don't know that it's all going to happen in 2016. As a matter of fact, I'm praying that it won't. And I have good word on that when we see this crisis approaching, we should pray, earnestly pray. It may be that God will hear our prayer and grant us a little more time. I'll take it, because I'm not anxious for what time is going to bring us. I'll take it. Now, I want to describe this. In the last 90 days, the president of this country decided to launch out on his own, without the approval or say-so of Congress, and enter into what amounts to a treaty agreement with Iran. We have given our word to Iran. What has Iran given us?
The finger.
What was this agreement all about? Well, we'll give you $150 billion that we've had tied up in the bank over here. We know it belongs to you, but we're using it interest-free, But we're going to give you back your $150 billion with all kinds of assurances from you that you're not going to build nuclear weapons, you're not going to shoot missiles everywhere, you're not going to do this, you're not going to threaten Israel, you're going to behave, you're going to do all these things, none of which it has done. Not a single one of which it has done. Not one. Now, according to Daniel, the book of Daniel, according to the prophecies in the book of Daniel, a crisis is coming that is going to include two Middle Eastern powers, Iraq and Iran. Two horns on a ram. Any current prophetic interpretation of the ram is Islam. And the two horns represent, according to Gabriel, the Medes, that's Iraq, and the Persians, that's Iran. And a power from the West is going to deal first with the power in Iraq. But there's going to be a second horn, and it's going to rise higher. It's going to do mean things. That second higher horn is Iran, Persia. And something is going to happen. By the way, it was announced yesterday and the day before. You probably didn't catch it. But since I've been preaching it for 35 plus years, I recognized it instantly. You see, even according to traditional, historical, Jewish interpretation of Daniel's visions, the power from the West, which will come across the face of the whole earth without touching the ground, the power from the West is going to deal with the first horn. But at some point in the future thereafter, he will have to come back again. Did I just say that? He will have to come back again. Did I say that? He will have to come back again. When the two horns will come together as one. And the power from the West is going to have to deal with a resurgent Iraq and an insurgent Iran. This is going to be the trigger event, folks. This is the trigger. Until the next trigger comes. This is the trigger. Iraq and Iran, day before yesterday, have entered into military, what do you call it when they go out in the field? What is it? Joint exercises. Iraq and Iran are now sharing joint exercises on both of their borders, their common border. And they are preparing to deal with any outside force. Well, they just don't have the stuff we've got. Yesterday, Russia delivered the SA-300 or whatever it is to Iran, which is the most sophisticated even the no-see-em airplanes. Are you listening? See, you try to talk to people And they don't understand because they don't spend all of their time worrying about the other side of the world. I understand. I understand. I understand. Nobody wants to be constantly shaking in their boots. But as of yesterday and the day before, so Josephus says, you know, the rabbis interpreted Daniel's vision. That's chapter 8 of Daniel. The rabbis interpreted Daniel's vision as the power from the west will come and leave and have to come back again. Is that current news? Is that current news? Did we just bring in 50,000 American troops, and 3 days ago we announced we're going to send 350,000 more in? And these are the mean guys, the beret guys, the guys that shoot first and don't bother with questions afterward. What I'm trying to say to you is, we're waiting for something to happen. Something is happening all over the place, all around us, under our noses, under our eyes, under our feet, and we haven't got a clue for the most part. I don't know how many months from here to here. I don't know. I don't know. There are some voices saying that before this year is over, Iran's going to make a move against Israel. Iran is going to test a nuclear weapon. Iran is going to do, I don't know. I don't know what Iran is going to do. I only know they're going to do something. And it's going to be a trigger event. So what does that mean to you and me? What does that mean? Well, let me ask you this. If people who see the handwriting on the wall have made a decision to take $500 and buy some gold and silver for $500 or $5,000 or whatever they can afford, if they can afford, do you think the value, the inherent, intrinsic value of gold and silver, if something like this occurs, is going to go up? And the answer is yes, 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 yes. There's things that I want to say to you that I shouldn't say because it involves people that some of us know together. And it's not bad. It's not bad about them. Someone asked me, why don't you ever go to Southern California anymore? Well, I went to Southern California for years on end. I spoke in dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of meetings and gatherings, 1,000, 2,000 here and there. And what did I say to them? Get ready. Don't know when this crisis is coming, but it's coming. And the real reason I don't go to Southern California anymore is because I'm afraid when I get there, there will be the big quake. No, you can't live in total and abject fear all the time. No, you can't. No, it's because light is given, and it either takes root, bears fruit, or whatever. And I have pictures, I have images in my memory bank of several thousand people and saying, you know, guys, everything is up right now. You could sell right now and find a place out of the desert of Southern California. You're dependent on a drink of water from 3 states away. And this would be a good time to sell. So I'm in another state, and someone calls the home where I'm visiting and says, I heard Brother Wheeling is there. Sure would like to come and talk to him. So this person came over and says, "Do you remember me?" "Well, I remember your face, but I don't remember where." "Well, I was in Long Beach, California. That's where. And I listened to what you were saying, and we sold and got out. And I'm here to hug your neck." You understand? There's a time and there's a not good time. There's a little bit of a time left right now, guys. And if you can't afford to, if you're in a large city, and I hope most of you are not. Cleburne is not a large city, but next door, it's a different story. I'm hoping that you have found a place outside. That means 50 miles away at least from. And that you've got a little bit of soil and a little bit of ground, and you understand what I'm saying? I hope. Because we have all the sayings, we have all the writings, we have all the warnings, we have everything that we need to know and do. It's the doing that's the problem. And so I say to people, look, if you can't afford to go buy a farm somewhere, buy some property somewhere, if you can't, I understand, not everyone can afford to just run out and buy something. But let me tell you, down your road and that road over there, they've got these travel trailers parked on the road, for sale signs all over them. And they paid $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for them. And they would be happy to take your money. Happy. Think ahead, plan ahead, believe ahead, act ahead. It has to be done. I wanted to put this last slide on the screen. Shame on me. What the last slide says is, all God's promises, all 6,000 years of God's promises in the great day of the Lord are fulfilled. All His promises come true. And you and I are that close to the end. You and I are that close to heaven. That close. But before you get to heaven, what you got to go through? You said it. You said it. Now, let me walk you through this, please. There's a crisis. There will be an attempt, and there's an ongoing attempt to avert this crisis. I believe we're going to kick the can down the road with the introduction of a new world order and a new currency for some countries. Not a one world currency yet. That happens over here. Sometime in the next 12 to 24 months, listen to the timing. Sometime in the next 12 to 24 months, I fully expect this. George, how do I get the next scene up here? Nebuchadnezzar, was he a good guy or a bad guy? What? Well, who destroyed Jerusalem and burned down Solomon's glorious temple? Nebuchadnezzar. Was Nebuchadnezzar a good guy or a bad guy?
Bad guy. He was doing what he was told.
Now, if you broke down, tore down, and burned down God's house, what would you expect God to do? Come on. What makes sense? Take care of this guy. And instead, God gives him visions. Gives him dreams. Does that make sense?
No.
Think of all the good guys God could give dreams and visions to. And He picks Nebuchadnezzar. And of course, you know the story well enough, the Daniel chapter 2 and the metallic image. Finally, Daniel is summoned and he prays with his friends and he says to the king, "O king, live forever. Could not the wise men, soothsayers, magicians, and astrologers tell the king the dream? No, but there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets and maketh known to the king what shall be in 600 BC. I'm quoting verbatim. He shows the king, there's a God in heaven who shows the king what shall be in the latter day. Thank you. We've got a whole church full of folk who don't believe it, who don't practice it, who won't even consider it. So by and by, Daniel says, you saw this metallic image, this great image. He had a head of, he had breasts and arms of silver, brass, iron mixed with miry clay. Now gold is number one, not just in the image, but gold is number one. And as silver is inferior to gold, so the power that's coming after you is going to be inferior. And the next, and the next. And O king, you are this head of... Now, is the head of gold Babylon or Nebuchadnezzar? The answer is yes. Nebuchadnezzar is Babylon. He is the power behind the power. And when is all of this going to be? Time of the end. Well, Nebuchadnezzar's dead and gone, so that head of gold has to represent some golden power at the time of the end. Does that make sense to anybody? So is it possible that the head of gold would represent the number one king at the time of the end? Now you know, Daniel's first vision was given to back up Nebuchadnezzar's first dream. So Daniel sees four great beasts rising out of the earth: lion, bear, leopard, then the ugly guy. The lion is reputed to be the king of beasts. He's number one. Every time this vision is repeated in Daniel's repertoire, every time, he's number one. 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 So if we were looking at the nations, because these beasts are said to represent nations, if we were looking at the nations and we were looking for number one, would that be the island of Bermuda? Come on. No, don't be ridiculous. Well, would it be France? No. There is one nation that stands out in history. One. Not two, not three, not four. One that stands out. That has a track record that cannot be disputed. Is self-evident that this one power has prospered and prospered and prospered and prospered. But there's going to come a time when Mr. Lion with eagle's wings is going to be what? Come on. What happens to his wings? What happens to his lion's heart? I would like to think we aren't there yet. I would like to think that. But it would be wasted thought. We're there. Does the world know it? Oh yeah, they do. They know it. Who doesn't know it? We have a gentleman running to be President of the United States, and to say he's a character is an understatement. He has seized upon a raw nerve. And when he touches that nerve, men respond, women respond, blacks respond, Mexicans respond, people respond to this raw nerve. You've touched a sore spot. And what is the sore spot? We don't win battles anymore. We don't print real money anymore. We don't make anything anymore except debt. We're super good at making debt. And so what this gentleman is doing is simply poking the sore spots that are sore with a lot of people who've lived long enough in this country to remember when we did win wars. When if somebody came along shaking their fist in our face, we took care of business. You know what I'm talking about. Understand? And so the catchphrase is, let's make America what? Great. What's the last word? Again. See, the again tells the whole story. Hey, it's gone. The wings are gone. The heart's gone. The money's gone. It's gone. We're going to get it back. It's a wonderful thought. But right now that's all it is a thought. It may even look good for a while. You see, in the month of November, something is supposed to take place in this country. What's supposed to happen in November? What? What if that election takes place before this crisis? I think I need to take you to the screen, give you a Bible study. Daniel chapter 4. This is the second dream or vision God gives to Nebuchadnezzar. In verse 4 and 5, I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in my house. That's the palace. That's downtown Babylon. I was at rest in my house, flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream. It made me afraid. Something is going on between God and Nebuchadnezzar and God and Babylon. And you and me, if we are part of the time of the end. Something is going on that makes the king really nervous because the head of gold gives way. Because the great tree, as we're going to see in a few minutes, gets cut down. So the king, who, by the way, chapter 4 of the book of Daniel was written by Nebuchadnezzar. If you haven't sorted that one out, I would suggest you sort that one out. He's the one writing chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar. I saw a dream that made me afraid. Daniel came in before me. His name was Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God. That was Bel. In whom is the spirit of the holy gods. That's in Daniel. And before him I told the dream. O Belteshazzar, because I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in thee, and no secret troubles you, tell me the visions of my dream that I've seen and the interpretation. This is the king. Thus were the visions I saw. Behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. We have to pause right here and take a little lesson in geography. Here's a circle. We're going to call this the world. Here is a tree that is said to be growing in the midst of the earth. Now, no tree can grow in the middle of the earth. It's not talking about the middle of the earth. See if this makes any sense. If I'm over there in Asia, there's a landmass and there's a great sea. We call it the Pacific. And if I go this way, there's Africa and Europe and India and Asia and all of that again. And between us We got to get Texas in there. I mean, how can you leave Texas out? In the midst of the earth. That is called us. That is called the United States of us. This is the only place that you can refer to as the midst of the earth. That's solid land. And we have ocean, and we have us, and we have ocean. And we're a great tree. Let's see what this great tree is all about. A tree in the midst of the earth. The height of it was to heaven. It actually says that. Now the tree grew, it was strong. The height thereof reached unto heaven. The sight thereof to the end of all the earth. The leaves were fair, the fruit thereof much. It was food for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it. Fowls of the heaven dwelt in the boughs thereof. And all flesh was fed of it. In Walmart. Is there any other nation on this rock that buys everybody else's stuff? There's not even a runner-up. How many years? You're old enough. You've lived long enough. There's a crisis on the other side of there. They're starving to death somewhere in Africa. They've had a tsunami over yonder on the other side. And who comes with ships and planes full of food, grain? Who? From your friends in America. There's not even a runner-up, guys. All flesh was fed of it. Close as you can get to reality. Now I saw in the visions, and behold, a watcher and a holy one came down from heaven. He cried aloud. He said, hew down the tree. Now hew is southern for cut it down. Cut off his branches, shake off his leaves, scatter his fruit, let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from under it. The beasts and the fowls are already. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass. In the tender grass of the field, let it be wet with the dew of heaven. Let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth. Now we speak of nations as first world, second world, third world, etc., etc. I don't even want to think of the possibility of the United States of America becoming a third world nation. But not only am I thinking in those terms, I'm afraid we may sink to 4. Because this whole thing is a humbling process. It is a humbling process. Who is humbling who? Come on. We're going to see. We're going to read it. Watcher and a holy one sends the word down. Cut him down. Cut it down. Cut the branches off. Pull the leaves off. Throw the fruit away. Leave nothing but the stump. Now the fact that the stump will be left means we're not totally dead. We're not totally, completely devoid of life. Wait till you see what happens at the end of all of this. Let his portion be with the beasts and the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from a man's heart. What happened to the lion? Let a beast's heart be given unto him. Let 7 times pass over him. 7 times. 7. How long is that? 7 years. Let 7 times pass over him. This is sanctuary time. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know, that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. And who is the whomsoever he will? I won't call names. I will just say, setteth up over it the basest of men. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him. And it told you in the previous verses what that means. He's going to lose his mind. And he's going to go and eat grass with the rest of the donkeys. Let a beast's heart be given unto him. Let 7 times pass over him, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. Let's go on. The tree that you saw, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the heaven, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, it was food for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of the heaven had their habitation. Watch. It's you, O King. Number 1, it's you that are grown and become strong, for your greatness is grown and reached to heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth. And whereas the king saw a watcher and a holy one coming down from heaven, said, hew the tree down, destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass in the tender grass of the field. Let it be wet with the dew of heaven. That's the latter rain, by the way, guys, if you haven't sorted all of this out. And let his portion be with the beasts of the field till 7 times pass over him. In a minute, we'll work this out. Are there 7 years at the end? Or 8? Oh, let's go on. Now this is the interpretation, O king. This is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and you will be wet with the dew of heaven. And 7 times will pass over you, till you know that the Most High, there he comes, way up there, high, that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. Oh, there's more. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure. After that thou shalt have known. When you finally wake up to reality, after that the heavens do rule. And all this came upon the king. Let's go on. At the end of 12 months, whoa. Now we've got 7 years. At the end of 12 months, he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. Now this is the number 1 head of gold nation. This is the lion with eagle's wings nation. It came to pass at the end of 12 months, he spake, the king spake, and he said, I built it for the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty, my greatness. I did it. While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven and said, this is spoken to you, sir. The kingdom is departed. Now, if you haven't thought any of this through to the extent of at least possible, I hope none of it is true. I would like to think none of it is true. But something big is going on here, folks. Something very large is taking place. And you and I are watching it. The world is watching it. I think only God can explain what it is to our understanding. They will drive thee from men. Thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee eat grass as oxen 7 times pass over you, until you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men and gives it to whomsoever He will. Now, if I just thought this was one person, one man, but it's not. It's the nation that is represented. The king Nebuchadnezzar is a representative for the nation. Just like the head of gold is a representative of the same hour he was boasting. The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar. He was driven from men, did eat grass as oxen. His body was wet with the dew of heaven. His hair grew like eagle's feathers, and his nails like bird's claws. If you understand what I said and what I meant when I said it's not a man only, it's a representative of. And so if it's pictured as a man losing his mind, it's a nation losing its mind. And I think we're almost there. No, when I think about it, we have arrived. We have arrived. We've gone too far, guys. Now, at the end of the days, that's the 7 years, 7 times. I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up my eyes to heaven. My understanding returned to me. I blessed the Most High and praised and honored Him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and His kingdom is from generation to generation. Can I share something with you without sounding like Mr. Know-It-All? I'm reading through Daniel's visions. I've got the professors in college and seminary in this ear, and I've got Daniel here and here. And it is the accepted position among those who know that the lion, the bear, and the leopard represent Babylon, Medo-Persia, Grecia, and Rome. The lion, bear, leopard, and terrible beast. But Daniel says in Daniel 7 and verse 10 and 11, while I was watching, this power is speaking great words. And I beheld even till the beast. Which one is that? 1, 2, 3, or 4? That's number 4. I watched even till the beast was slain, his body destroyed, and given to the... Where's the burning flame? Revelation 18. The city that is the queen of all cities. She's on fire, and none can put the fire out. So it is the accepted position and interpretation that the lion, bear, and leopard represent Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Grecia, and the beast represents Rome. We're talking about history. We're not talking about the future. We're talking about past history. I watched, Daniel said, till the beast was slain. That's number 4. His body destroyed and given to the burning flame. Do you know what the next verse says? As concerning the rest of the beasts, that's the lion, the bear, and the leopard, their dominion was taken away, but they were given a prolonging in life. None of that is true historically. It does not even begin to measure history. Do you get what I just said?
Give that reference again from Daniel.
That's Daniel 7, 11, and 12. we need to understand that the book of Daniel is about the time of the end. Who told Daniel that? Michael, the great prince. Shut it up, Daniel, and close it up until what? The time of the end. That's where it belongs. That's where the dreams given to Nebuchadnezzar belong. God's shown the king what will be in the latter days. When you get to Daniel's fourth vision, chapters 10, 11, and 12, there's Gabriel. He is being withstood by the prince of Persia. Well, what is the context? Verse 14, I have come to show you, O Daniel, what will befall your people in the latter days. What is so difficult here? What is so difficult is we have preconditioned ideas. We have been preconditioned. So we can't read it. We already know it. So let's do this again. It's possible that before this year is over, this one, 2016, that an election will take place. I don't know who's going to win. I don't know. There are some folk who already know and they'll tell you so. I don't know. But when I read things like Daniel chapter 4, I have to say, wow, something big is pictured here. Something very much out of the ordinary is pictured here. Something like we have never seen before is pictured here. So is it possible that an election takes place and 12 months thereafter, 12 months thereafter, did I lose you on that one? Something big takes place and 12 months thereafter, I don't know. I don't know. I truly do not know, but it scares the bejibbers out of me just thinking about it. Not because of, even a political party. None of that. None of that. In 1978, I was employed by the Southwestern Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists right here. Right here. I was associated with some good men. Bill May, and I think Bill's passed away, hasn't he? Bill May was my immediate boss. Bill and I were acquainted through Amazing Facts. Bill and Joe Cruz and Cyril Miller and others, they formed and created Amazing Facts. So I received a phone call and was asked to come here, sit down and talk with the men in the union office. They explained what they wanted to do and asked me if I wanted to be part of it. And I said, absolutely. We referred to it as pioneer evangelism. We're going to break new ground. We're going to do things that haven't been done in the way that we're proposing. So I went to work for the Southwestern Union, with the Southwestern Union. The first year, I was assigned to New Orleans, Louisiana. Now you have to understand, I'm an Alabama boy. What that means is I'm surrounded by Baptists. Okay? They're everywhere. And what the brethren were proposing was that I move from Baptistville to Catholicville in New Orleans, Louisiana. Not been through New Orleans and whatever. Judy and I were married 53 years ago, and we took our honeymoon to New Orleans for a day or two. But living in New Orleans is very different from visiting New Orleans. Are you listening? The first 2 days I was in New Orleans, my wife was back home in Alabama, and I got hungry. I wanted some food. And I didn't want to get lost in New Orleans traffic. So I asked someone close by, is there any fast food around here? Oh yeah, there's so-and-so and so-and-so, just 2 blocks down there. Well, I can walk that far. And I went into this fast food place in New Orleans, and there were 3 women. I judged them to be late 20s, 30s, not more than 39. I'm talking about the age grouping. And each of the 3 women had 1 or 2 children they were hanging on to. Are you listening? I have to tell you this. The truth has to come out. So I'm back here and they're up there at the counter and I'm getting ready to order. And one woman says to one of the children, so-and-so and so-and-so, and the kid did not do what Mom commanded. And I have never heard such language. I never heard it from men. I never heard it from sailors. I never heard such language in my life out of the mouth of a woman addressing her children. And one of the other ladies said, yeah, and you're going to get the same, with the same repeated. And I thought to myself, I better escape while I can. Now, what I thought was my pioneer evangelism in New Orleans was going to amount to working, seeking, searching until I found a Protestant or 2, because I didn't know how to witness to Catholics. I'd never been surrounded by Catholics before. And this incident in the fast food place didn't help my... Anyhow, what I discovered was that the 3% of Protestants in New Orleans, you couldn't touch them with a 100-foot pole. They already knew it all. They didn't need a thing you had to offer. But the Catholics were starving to death for the Bible. If I had not seen it with my own eyes and experienced it, I wouldn't believe it. You could go to the Protestants and say, have free Bible course. I don't need that. I went to this one house across the river. Lady came to the door. I said, my name is Wheeling, Mr. Wheeling, and I'm with Home Health Education. I've already paid for those books. I said, yes, ma'am, I know that. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to bring you a free Bible course. And this big guy steps up in the door, and he's about that much higher than she is. And he looks at me and says, she don't want it. And she slugged him. You got to understand, this is New Orleans now. She reached over and bammed him. I mean, good. This is none of your business. Get out of here. He went over like a whipped dog and sat down in his recliner and kicked back like this, picked up his beer. She said, come in. I was afraid to. I didn't know who was going to beat me up, him or her. I'm not exaggerating any of this. I'm telling you, he's sitting there and he's rolled back in his recliner and he's got to be. You're like all the rest of them preachers come around here and tell me I'm going to hell because I'm drinking beer. And I said, sir, I don't believe that. He sat up cold sober. He said, you don't? I said, no, I don't believe we're lost because we do wrong. You don't? I said, no, I think we're lost because we don't let God undo the wrong. The poor guy sobered up.
Praise the Lord.
She said, I want those lessons. She completed the course. You listening? You understand? I cannot judge another person. I can't do it. Only the Holy Spirit can make that kind of move. Sock that guy. I mean, it was a sock. It wasn't a... You know. No. I would not trade that year in Catholicville for all the money in the world. And by the way, we had lots of baptisms. The Union evangelist, Dan Collins, at the time, he called me over there. He said, Wheeling, if you baptize one of those folk before I get there, I'm going to kill you. How's that for a Union evangelist? I'm telling you this because the second assignment was in Gentry, Arkansas. And it was in Gentry, Arkansas that the Lord spoke to me very, very distinctly and said, this is what I want you to do. I was brash enough to tell the Lord that I did not want to do it. I don't want to do that. I could see trouble with a capital T ahead. For 3 weeks, the Lord told me again and again and again and again, call Joe Cruz. Because the program down here was coming apart because the union decided they needed to spend their money in other places than back up our program. And I knew we're not going to do it anymore. And I didn't want to call the office. And the Lord just kept saying, call Joe Cruz, call Joe Cruz. This went on for 3 weeks, guys. 3 weeks. Call Joe Cruz. And on a Sunday morning, at the house we were renting in Gentry, Arkansas, Bill May called me. He said, Charles, this is not working and you know it. I said, yeah, I know, Bill. I know. He said, I'm going to give you a number. Call Joe Cruz. He's waiting for your call. So I called Elder Cruz. He was on a evangelistic program, one of the states up east. I said, Joe, this is Charles. Where are you, man? I've been trying to find you for 3 weeks. I said, I'm here. He said, get on a plane and come up here. We got to talk. Now I'm telling you this because I want you to understand something. The Lord told me and told me and told me, this is what I want you to do. This is before Joe. Remember, this is going on for 3 weeks. This is what I want you to do. I told Judy, I said, you know, HMS Richards went through this when he was forming the Voice of Prophecy. He had a struggle, all kinds of things going on. If I could just, you know, talk to Elder Richards, I'm sure this matter would be settled. I got up on the 3rd week and went to the post office in Big Gentry, Arkansas. Had a pink slip in my box. I went to the postmaster. Nobody in the post office but the postmaster and myself. Handed him the pink slip. He came out and handed me a package. Brown paper grocery bag. You know how old I am now. Brown paper craft grocery bag tied up with twine. And friends that we baptized in New Orleans said, Brother Wheeling, thinking of you at this time, we wanted to send a gift. And when I unwrapped it, it was HMS Richard's Man Alive. I didn't have to read the book. I just threw my hands up in the post office and said, I surrender. Now the next hurdle. The next hurdle is, how do you print books by the hundreds of thousands, even millions, with no money? I told the Lord, I don't like to ask people for money. The answer was, if I can keep the sun and the moon from bumping into one another, I can pay the light bill. Go to work. A friend in Gentry, Arkansas, little old lady about this tall, and if she shriveled up anymore, she would have been that tall. When her husband passed away, she decided she could not sit around and just wring her hands and do nothing. So she started her own missionary endeavor. And for several years running, she very faithfully purchased cases and cases and cases of books and went to motels in a 100-mile radius and put them in every room of every motel. Now you have to understand what a little lady like this can do. She didn't go to the motel and say to the owner, I would like to do this. She went to the owner and said, this is what I'm going to do. And you needn't be concerned, sir, because I will bring the books, and if your customers take them, that's fine. We can give a little piece of paper that says this book is free, take it with you. And I will bring more books, and I will put, your employees don't have to do anything. And she talked some tough guys into, So I get a phone call. This is the third day after the book incident in the post office. Third day. I get a phone call. Charles, Mama wants to talk to you. I said, about what? Mama wants to talk to you. That's all you need to know. She's at home. So I went to the house. I sat down in the living room. She sat down over on the sofa on that side. She looked at me and she said, what's this all about? And so I just unburdened my heart. And I told her exactly what the Lord had said to me. And I didn't want to do it. She didn't say a thing. She got up, went in the bedroom, got her checkbook, wrote a check for $5,000 and came out and handed it to me and said, go to work. Have I ever told you this story? Go to work. The second check was from a Roman Catholic in Oregon who would not come downstairs because there was Adventists downstairs. And he didn't like his wife spending too much time with Adventists. So he wouldn't come down. So I'm visiting in this home and somebody says, Brother Wheeling, the Lord gave you a message. Why don't you just share it? So I just, I shared it. I didn't ask for money. I didn't do anything. I just shared what happened. He motioned for his wife to come upstairs. She went upstairs and she came down with a check. She says, that's my husband. He won't come down. There's too many Adventists here. She handed me a check. It was all folded. And I said, well, thank you. And I put it in my pocket right here. And she says, don't you think you should look at the check? And I said, well, I'm sorry. I just, $25,000. My husband said, tell that man to go to work. We're at 50 plus million books right now. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Something is going to happen here. Some blessing from heaven is going to take place in here that's going to give us a measure of wealth with a little measure of time. And we're already working with the publishing representative who has helped us print our books for the last 3, 4, 5 years. And we've said, Gary, we don't have the money yet. We don't have the money yet. We don't have the money yet. But we know God is going to send the money. And when we do, Gary, we want to print 6 million books at a time. Well, he said, that's a lot of books. When are you going to get some money? I don't know. I just know God will deliver. I don't know, but I know. I don't know, but I know. I don't know every intricacy. I can't dot every I and cross every T. But I want to tell you, there is reality in all of this. In the Word, there is reality in all of this. And you and I are about to be overwhelmed and overtaken and passed by if we don't wake up. Well, God wouldn't pass us by. Where do you think Protestants came from? God wouldn't pass us by. Where do you think Christians came from? When God's time comes and God's order comes, you do it. Or get passed by. It scares me to death, even thinking about it. So here we are. Here we are. Something is going to happen. Is there 12 months in here? Plus 7 years? Let's see, that would make 8 years. That's 2 terms. I don't know. I know this. We were given a commission. We, meaning Adventist Christians, we were given a mission and a commission. We were given, which we have not lived up to. We have not lived up to the calling. And I'm almost afraid to tell you where we are. I'm almost afraid. But I'm going to. She was 17, going on 18, and he was 21. And they were married, James and Ellen. If you don't know the story, you need to know the story. She was not the healthiest person. She was weak. When she was 17, almost 18, James and Ellen were married. Those were not the headiest of economic times. A man got up in the morning and he went to find anything he could do. If he had to cut and bale hay, that's what he did. If he had to build a fence for a neighbor to get a little pay, that's what he did. And that's what James did. He would go find odd jobs, but he had a purpose, not simply to put some bread on the table, but bread of life out to the people. So he would go and he would cut and throw hay all day long, and he would come home. On this one occasion, he came home, and Ellen said to him, James, I have a message for you. The Lord has given me a message for you. You're to print a little paper. It says, for a contribution of 1 penny. You're to print a little paper. And from the light given to me, I saw that it would be small at first, but it would grow until it circled the earth. That's when the Review and Herald Publishing Association was born. It was James White, at the unction of his wife, under the unction of the Spirit, who said, the Review and Herald Publishing Association, the premier, the primary, the first, the greatest, the largest publishing enterprise in the history of Adventism. And 6 months ago, it went bankrupt and out of business. You know, we in our little ministry have literally gone into 157 countries around the world. And we have distributed thousands and hundreds of thousands, and at times millions of books. When we went into Russia, we bought every Russian Bible that existed on the planet and took it to Russia. With the great controversy. We have been to 157 countries around the world. I don't need to name names, but I have sat across the desk from good men, well-meaning men, who said, Wheeling, it's not going to work. You can't compete with God's work. And they're gone. And it's not Wheeling's work. It's God's work. And if I called the names, you would be heartsick, stomach sick. Men in high places who ought to know better. And when we came to a certain country on the other side of the Pacific, our books were shipped in. We flew men in to give those books away, only to discover that conference officials over there heard that the books were coming in and went to the authorities and said, they are ours. They were meant for us. And they took our books to the Adventist mission compound, poured gas all over them, and burned them up. You don't want to hear. You don't want to know. We're about to enter one of the most exciting times the world has ever seen. Not only because of the trouble, but in Ellen White's words, it's impossible to describe the scene. When the persecutions of the past and the mighty workings of the Spirit of God will be blended. That's where we're going. That's where we're on the way. The latter rain is not here. You need to understand the latter rain comes over here. When Moses and Elijah show up, there's 1,260 days. There's 3.5 years. There's 40 and 2 months. That's when the latter rain is poured out. When the Spirit of God is poured out in every, I'm quoting Ellen White now, volume 9 of the Testimonies, in every dark corner of the earth, light will shine. Amen. That's only possible with the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. It's only possible. Hearts and minds will be illumined. We're on the way. We're not there yet. It's not wrong to pray for the Holy Spirit now. It's not wrong to pray for the latter rain. But it's not here yet. There is a moment, and it's ahead. And what we do is anticipate that moment. Expectation, anticipation. And we do, Jesus said, work while you can, because the Holy Spirit's going to take over and do a work that we cannot do. That's what it says. Not by might. That's by human strength and wisdom. Not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. God's going to do a work which none, Jesus says, can gainsay nor resist. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that. Judy, do I have a perfect storm? On the 30th day of June, my wife and I will celebrate 53 years. I don't know if it's because I'm patient or... Thank you. What's the saying behind every good man? I like that part. There's a good woman. And it's true. It's absolutely true. If I had to cook for myself, I would have been dead long ago. Long ago. So once again, here's what we're doing. Here's what we have done. We're waiting for the Lord to send the funds to print these by the millions, 6 million at a time. And right now, that's the limit that you can go and wait for them to go through the process of putting the addresses on them, electronic, and mailing them. Now, I don't want to say this since I'm in Texas. We were going to start with Alaska, North and South Dakota. But I have been impressed to start with Texas. Every residential address in the state of Texas. This is the great controversy in 80 pages instead of 680. We can claim it as a whole, a good, complete reading because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And it's in full color. You would have to be crazy to print the great controversy and send it all over the world. You just as well paint a bullseye on your back. I've had prominent men in the denomination tell me, man, you don't know what you are doing. The reality is, that's exactly what I suspected, and this is exactly what I said to the Lord when He said, this is what I want you to do. I said, trouble. I don't want to do that. But it's gone too far now. We got to finish the work. We got to finish it. So I've tried to explain this before, and I'll do it in a simple manner if I can. There's the east coast of the United States. We're talking about the 48 contiguous. And there's the west coast. And basically in North America, the Adventists are here and the Adventists are here. And relatively few Adventists down through the middle of the country. Relatively few. So when we go and hold a seminar on the West Coast and say we'd like for you to consider a community mailing to your hometown, to where you live now, people have been doing this for 35 years plus with us, 35 plus years with us. And so we look at the map and we have sent books all up and down and all up and down, but you come down the heartland of America and very little has been done. I mean, we've given a lot of books away, but there has been no saturation. And the command is to every kindred, tongue, nation, and people. That's the command. It's a tall order. So we're going to start with Texas. God willing, we're going to start with Texas. And the head count, the residential head count in Texas is about equal to Alaska, North and South Dakota combined. Maybe even throw in Nebraska. And we're going to work our way right up through the heartland. You listening? Let me tell you a little story. It's not a story, it's a history. Very true. I'll send it in the mail to you when I get back to the office. For 20 years after the disappointment of 1844, there was no Seventh-day Adventist. 1844 to 1864. In 1864, an organization was formed. That's where the name Seventh-day Adventist was taken. Now, when an organization is formed, the first thing around the table is, how are we going to pay for this? And so when you're inventing or defining a church, a religious organization, you think of tithes and offerings. Nothing wrong with that. That seems to be a Bible plan. Seems to be a good one. And so what happens is you encourage the people to support this fledgling work. And some do and some don't. But as the work grows and expands, more money is needed. More funds are needed. And so what happens is, sitting around the table, is things begin to be said like, well, we are the true church, and therefore we are the only ones worthy of receiving tithe. Pretty soon, it becomes the order of the day. You pay tithe to the true church. Well, it didn't take too many years, and the little lady, Ellen by name, she listened to all of this, and she would say something like, "Shaw." Now, she didn't want to announce that too loudly in public, but she decided to take some of her personal tithe and support fledgling work. And wouldn't you know it, in this one conference, I won't say where, but Colorado, wouldn't you know it, the brethren got wind of what was going on. And did they ever fire off a hot letter to the little lady? And then the conference president himself got into the battle to fracas, and he read her the riot act. And she wrote a letter back, which some few privileged Adventists have been privileged to read. And if you've never read it, she said, "You better be quiet, brother, because if others find out what I'm doing, they will join me."
Keep cool, Brother Washington.
I love it. So if you've never read it, it's in volume 4 of the Testimonies. It's real plain, it's real clear, it's real simple. When Christ was here, He gave men marching orders. He ordained tithes and offerings for the support of the ministry. I love it. I was a pastor once. I love it. For the support of the ministry. And to spread the printed page throughout the land. I love it. Well, I want to redraw right here. We've seen miracles when you undertake a work at the specific command of heaven. When you undertake a work and you see God do things, work miracles, touch hearts, move people, bring things to pass, then it gives you courage to go on. You understand? If you've never had a miracle in your life, and I suspect many of you, if not all of you have, I believe there are times in your life you can say, God stepped into the picture. God did this. Well, we've seen that. We've experienced that. We experienced it this week. We've seen it. We know what it is to be totally dependent upon God. totally. This is the front cover of a book. This is the actual size of the front cover of the book. You can find this book by title at Amazon or other large bookstores. You can find it. Strategic Relocation, a North American Guide to Safe Places. Now, if you don't recognize the name of Joel Skousen, you should. He's a real scholar in the work that he has done here. So I want you to have the 2 pages in hand. This is only one of several maps in the book. I'm going to tell you about the book and then let you look and see what the little map is all about. Notice it is strategic location in North America. Now, Texas doesn't usually claim to be part of North America, but they are. And so various maps are presented within this little book, It's, and they go state by state by state by state in alphabetical order. If you live in Colorado and you want to know about where you might survive in Colorado, they'll give you a map of Colorado and you can see there are 3 places or 4 or whatever it is, okay? We're talking about survival properties. We're talking about whatever the occasion. Maybe it's a natural catastrophe, an earthquake. Maybe it's, Now I'm going to sum up the entire 48 contiguous states. I'm going to sum it up for you very quickly. You didn't know I was an artist, did you? I even drew Texas in there, guys, so cut me a little slack. Here's what it boils down to. I found it of great interest as I began cruising around in this book, and I'm saying, man, if hard times really come, where do you survive? And it takes in a bit of East Texas. Did you hear that? Even Texas is listed as one of those places where one might survive. But it's East Texas, y'all. Tell me what the difference between East Texas and the rest of Texas is.
Water.
Green grass, trees, and water. Right? I mean, if you're going to survive, you don't want Utah. You don't want, but there are places within these states and they're listed. But this is where it boils down. And Florida don't really count because there's too many people there. There are southern states. There's the eastern portion of Texas, and we can go up and we can take in bits and pieces of Kansas and Missouri, bits and pieces, as I'll explain in a few moments. We can take in Kentucky, Tennessee, and over on the eastern coastline here. And this area is not the only place you can survive till Jesus comes, but it happens to be prime in the sense that we're blessed with water. We're blessed with water. We're blessed with water. Let me tell you what that means in the state of Alabama. 26% of all the water that falls on North America, talking about the 48 states, 26% of all the water that falls from the sky or comes out of springs flows through the state of Alabama. Flows through the state of Alabama. You may have the Mississippi, or you may have the Red River, we have 5 principal rivers in Alabama. And having grown up there, I just take it for granted that there's plenty of water. I don't even stop to think about water is going to be worth more than gold. Now, I went away to Southern Missionary College. I want to share this with you because this is straight. I went away to Southern Missionary College in my first year in school. It was announced to these ministerial students, this was my first year as a ministerial student, it was announced that you are going to be given a seminar band assignment. Well, what's a seminar band? Well, once a month, you and others are going to go together to a seminar appointment. A church appointment. You're going to have the Sabbath school program, you're going to have the church service, you're going to have the song service, you're going to have everything. So 3-4 of us would get in the car and away we would go every month for 9 months of the school year. And lo and behold, they sent me to this little place in Tennessee. And I didn't even know where it was. Judy, what was the name of that place? Graysville. Thank you. I didn't know anything about Graysville. And I got to this little, it wasn't even a wide place in the road. It was hardly a place, wide or otherwise. And you could tell that once upon a time there had been several large buildings in this place. But all that was left was foundation and concrete and bricks sticking up and whatever. And I found out that Graysville, Tennessee was where the first formation of what would become Southern Missionary College was started in Graysville, Tennessee. It was called Southern Training School. And I didn't know anything about it. I was a new Adventist, virtually a new Adventist. And we came into this place and all the buildings were rotted down and there was only the foundation of this one, and in the basement, foundation of this, what had once been a rather grand building, you could tell, Sabbath school and church were being held. And so I went there on the first Sabbath of the first month's assignment, and the second, and about the third month there. We're taking a break between Sabbath school and church. Gives folk a few minutes to step outside and walk around and get a breath of fresh air, and if the sun is shining, wonderful. There was a couple of old brothers who wanted to take me outside and show me something. And there was an old sister as well, and she wanted to go out as well. And they wanted to tell me their story. And they did. And they said, you see all those mountains up there? It's called the Cumberland Plateau in eastern Tennessee. You see all those mountains up there? Sister White visited here. And she stood right here where we're standing. And she pointed up there and she said, these are some of the places that were shown to me where God's people will be safe. And that never left my, I put that in the memory bank. And I thought about that. And then a friend shared his Joel Skousen's strategic relocation with me. And that's basically the safest place in this place. I thought, wow. Wow. Anyhow, I'm not saying there's no safe place but Tennessee or Alabama. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm only saying to you that within this circle, you will find Joel Skousen giving plus marks or minus marks. Now, we've got some friends here from Louisiana today. I know that's a hard word to pronounce, but... And I've known these people for years, and they believe that we're near the end. They do. And they're doing something about it. So they got a few acres where you can grow something to eat. They've got water. They're doing work. They're doing something. And I learned today they're off the grid. And I say, fantastic. And what I'm going to do is get home and send them a letter and tell them to build me a place. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Do you understand? I have friends call me from Texas from time to time. Where do you live? Well, we're in Houston, brother. No. I know it's not the place to be, Brother Wheeling, but we don't have the money. So what do you do? Come on, tell me what you do. If you're between a rock and a hard place, tell me what you do. Come on. You pray. And what do you ask for? Land, money, help. Now I can look at you and tell most of you are out of debt. You're totally free and clear of debt. I can tell that. But if you're not, what would you ask God to do for you? Lord, I want to pay my just debts. I want to be out of debt. I want to tell you, we've been looking at Joel Skousen. And were we ever surprised to find some places in East Texas? I mean, who would have thunk it? There are some places in East Texas that are worthy of anybody's consideration. Well, it takes money, Brother Wheeling. It takes God supplying the money. That's what it takes. I just want to offer some simple suggestions, and I'm going on. Okay? If you can't afford to buy a property, then ask around among your friends. You live on a few acres. Could I park a travel trailer on some of your ground? All you can do is ask, and all they can say is yes or no. But I can't afford a travel trailer. Well, let me tell you about Walmart and a family tent. Now, all of this sounds ridiculous. All of this sounds way out. But do you know how long it took the Depression to reach its depth, its deepest, lowest point from the stock market crash in 29? Do you know where the deepest, darkest, lowest point of the Depression came? 3.5 years after the stock market crash. I find that more than coincidental. Now you meet people, if you travel like I have, you meet people who will say, I don't worry about any of that. God will take care of us. Well, I'm not going to argue with that. I'm not going to debate that. I believe that. let me tell you, do you use a knife, fork, and spoon when you eat? Why do you do that? God will feed you. Do you do any chores around the house and the yard? Why do you do that? God can mow the grass for you. God can take care of everything for you. Let me quote the little lady. She says, "Some are so heavenly minded, they're no earthly good." That's a direct quote. This is real. It requires real turnip greens. This is real. This is real. 7 years is a real long time. And it just appears prophetically as though things will start going down rather quickly after everybody thinks they're going up. They're going to go down, and there will be desperation, and there will be a sinking and a sinking and a sinking. There will be a crisis, and there will be a crisis, and there will be a crisis. Oh, by the way, I see some of you, and the wheels are already turning. Where in East Texas? You thought I wasn't taking note, and I was. I will be glad to correspond with any of you. All you have to do is say, "Brother Wheeling, I'm interested in looking around." Fine. Or you can get a book. Or you can go online and you can ask some pretty straightforward questions, and you'll be surprised how quickly answers will come. You'll be surprised. Whatever you and I are going to do, we have to do it from here before here, before the deadly wound. Whatever we're going to do about, we have to do it. So let's see what the little lady has to say about all this. The work, that's an interesting word. The work of the people of God is to prepare for the events of the future, which will soon come upon them with blinding force. That's a realistic statement. There's no pie in the sky here. There are key words in a simple statement like this. Work. Key word number 1, work. Key word number 2, prepare. Key word number 3, hurry. Said the angel, tell the people to hurry, hurry, hurry. Here we are. Let's have a look. We're going to take the 3.5 years off. We're going to look again at crisis number 1, the beast rising, the beast wounded. And then we're guessing that if there are 7 last years, sanctuary time, we're guessing that there's 2 to 3 years here before crisis number 3. Crisis number 3, you really want to know more about. You really want to know all you can know about crisis number 3. We'll get there. The little lady says, pray for wisdom. She says the coming struggle is going to be marked with a terrible intensity, such as the world has never witnessed. We've seen some tough times on planet rock Earth. It's often the case trouble is greater in anticipation than reality, not true of the crisis before us. The most vivid presentation cannot reach the magnitude of the ordeal. I mean, these are hard words. God has revealed That word means opened. God has revealed what's to take place in the last days. For what reason? So that His people may be prepared to stand against the tempest of opposition and wrath. Those who've been warned of the events before them are just to sit down in calm expectation. Just wait on God. I can't tell you how many Adventists have said those very words to me. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. Those who've been warned of the events before them not to sit in calm expectation of the coming storm, comforting themselves that the Lord will take care of you. There are many who are at ease and, as it were, asleep. They sit down in calm expectation of the event, comforting themselves with the thought that God will protect His people in the day of trouble. But God will not save us if we make no effort to do what? The work He has committed to our charge. In other words, if you're an Adventist Christian, you have certain baggage. You have certain burdens. You have certain assignments. You have certain conditions. Whether you're aware of them or not, you've got to wise up. You've got to find out that if you have an Advent background, you have a responsibility. God had a purpose in raising up this movement. And if you and I have come to the kingdom for such a time as this, God has a purpose that you and I are still around. It's our duty to do all in our power to avert the threat and danger. There's the prospect before us of waging a continuous war at the risk of imprisonment, losing property, and even life itself. Those are tough words. Pray for wisdom, because money will soon depreciate in value very suddenly when the reality of eternal scenes opens to the senses of man. Now, I'm just going to give you hearsay. I'm telling you right now it's hearsay. That's all I can do is pass along hearsay. But I have listened to the gurus who supposedly know about where we're going financially as a nation, as a world, as whatever. And several of them have said when the money is changed, there will be a brief period of time in there, and then it's going to be depreciated. The money is going to be depreciated. What does that mean? It's going to buy less for more money. That's what it means. It's going to buy less. You're going to get less. So when this new currency is coming out, and it's rumored to be in the banks already waiting for the button to be pushed. Rumored. Hearsay. But it is said in some quarters that when the new money is released and you will exchange that opportunity, no threats, nobody saying, come turn your green ink on white paper money in, but when you go to make a deposit or whatever, you will be given back the new currency. That way, the old currency will be taken out of circulation and people will be happy and concerned or unconcerned or whatever. And it is rumored in some quarters that on the day of exchange, whatever that is, if that goes for a month, if it goes for 3 months or whatever, on the day of exchange, you will be given 1 for 1. Whatever 1 for 1 means in green ink on white paper, the new currency that you will be given will be 1 for 1. But not long thereafter, there will be a depreciation. Now, depending on who you're listening to and who you're reading and who you're paying any attention to, it can be as low as 8% depreciation. That's another whole story. It could be 20%, on the way to 30%, 40%, and some believe even 50% depreciation. So if I was looking for a travel trailer or even a tent, I think I would The time is coming when we cannot sell at any price. Well, we know that. That's this is mark of the beast language. The time is coming we can't sell at any price. In the time of trouble, their property will come up before them like a mountain to crush them. And the context is, God is giving us an opportunity by our own free wills and choices to place everything He has entrusted to us on the altar. Doesn't mean God's going to strip us naked and send us out to the world without any clothes on. That's not what it's talking about. But you might get along with 10 acres if you've got 100. If you're a man with a bunch of boys' toys, and you know what that means, don't you? In Alabama, it's a pickup truck with a shotgun in the back window. And one of those four-wheelers. If you've got some boys' toys, you maybe think seriously about. Another, ladies love antiques. All of these earthly goods. Now, I have already packed the stuff I'm taking to heaven. I've already packed mine up. So, I know what's going for me, but you probably haven't made a list yet. Time is coming. We can't sell at any price. The time is coming when we will try to dispose of it, but not be able. That sounds like financial trouble. Economic trouble. Hoarded wealth will soon be worth what? Less. That's once again, money will soon depreciate in value. Worth less. When the decree goes forth that none shall buy or sell except they have the mark of the beast, a whole lot of money won't do you no good. That's what it says. And that's good Bible. That's good sense. Here's one. I see the necessity of making haste to get all things ready for the crisis. Now, she wrote that 150 years ago. So what assurance do you and I have that we won't go another 150 years? Well, I could say things like, watch Congress and the White House and you'll know. Is it possible you and I and the people of this country and the world are going to be introduced to a new world order before this year is over? And certainly before the next year is over. So the way these presidential elections work, the way this works is you vote in November, but you don't take office until So we're really talking about all of this. What I want to do is get us over to here. Now, this is what the end of the day is going to be all about. From here, the 3.5 years. See, this is 2 to 3 years. And you do understand, in Bible reckoning of time, if you have 6 years in one day, in the Bible, it's counted as 7 years. You do understand that, don't you? You don't? That's the way they reckon time in the Bible. And so you have 50 years. You have 7 sevens. And 7 sevens is how many? 49. Thank you. And the 49th year is not a full year. Why not? Because on the 10th day of the 7th month, on the 10th day of the 7th month, you sound the trumpet of Jubilee throughout the land. So the 49th year is not a complete year. Is it still reckoned as a year? Yes. So we're talking about 7 last years, and that could be 2 to 3 inclusive, and 3.5. And how many years would that be? Don't say it. Say it. 6.5 years would be how many years? Don't say 6.5. Say 7. In Bible reckoning, it would be 7 years. And it would be a very special 7th year, because it is a Jubilee year. Now, if you know anything about the Jubilee in the sanctuary, of all the signs, symbols, and types and shadows in the sanctuary, which year would you suppose Jesus would return? Come on. Jubilee. Tell me what happens at Jubilee. I love that one. All debts are canceled. I like that one. What else? What?
Slaves set free.
All slaves are set free. Tell me what else. Come on.
Get your land back.
The land is restored to its rightful owner. Now that one, I really love that. I'm waiting to find out how many acres are on my name, or my name is on how many acres. I'm waiting to find out. Now I've already picked it out. I've already told the Lord where I want to, start at this corner and go to this corner and go to this corner and this corner. I want mountains. I want flat land. I want ocean. I want beach. I'm not asking too much. You don't need to worry, because there ain't no place like that in Texas or Alabama. No, I'm waiting to find out how much property was stolen from me and my family. Because I have God's word, I have His promise, that I will restore all that the cankerworm has eaten. And there's going to be some jumping up and down. There's going to be some Pentecostal going on at Jubilee. You better believe it. You better believe it. So there's 2 to 3 years, and there's 3.5, and this plus this equals 7 years. So I don't hesitate to say 7 last years. I think so. I think there's good Bible for it. I know there's good sanctuary for it. I know. 7 years is a long time, guys. Long time. 3.5 years is a long time. If times are tough. It's a long time. Now I'll tell you how most of my Christian Adventist life has been spent. I've told the Lord, and I continue to tell the Lord, that I want to see Jesus coming in the clouds of heaven. That's my aim in life. That's my ambition. Now, as I have prayed that prayer through the years, it has always been in the context of, I'm going to live through until Jesus comes. But now that I'm a little older and a little wiser, just a little bit older and wiser, I'm thinking I might take a vacation in between. You understand? And I won't even fret about it.
Amen.
Death does not frighten me. It's dying that scares me to death. I don't know, and Jesus said, don't worry about the evil day before it comes. Sufficient unto the day. I have to accept that. You have to accept that. I don't know where tomorrow is going to take you and me. But I have to try and reason it. I have to make some plan. I have to work something out as best I can see it, comprehend it, and work it out. With God's leading, God's direction, God's hand. Besides that, I'm not going to miss seeing Jesus coming in the clouds of heaven. Why not? Come on. Give me a real, meaningful answer.
Special resurrection.
What is the promise? You can find it in early writings. All those that have died in the hope of the third angel's message will be resurrected to see. I'll accept that.
Moses was given a special resurrection.
What's that?
Moses was given a
Oh, yes. 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 I believe with everything in me that the world, not simply us, that the world is on the cusp. We're on the verge of the time of the end. I can't see it any other way. I can't think it any other way. And you get busy on the internet and you go from one to one. You saw that Greg Hunter interview with Bo Polney. He interviews a whole host of people. Billionaires, Americans, foreigners. And they're all saying the same thing. It's the end. It's the end. It's the end. And they're not talking about the biblical end. They're talking about the end of the world as we know it. They're talking about the golden age turning to 10. T-I-N. I really want to get you here. This is what the last part of the day and the last part of the evening is going to deal with. This crisis comes about because of a trigger event, a prophetic trigger event. This crisis, number 2, comes about because of a prophetic trigger event. Call it water over the dam. Call it the dam breaking. Call it whatever you want. There is a trigger event each time. This one is as my grandmother used to say, a doozy. Whatever a doozy is. This one is the one. This is the one that is going to change the whole working plan of heaven. Because for 6,000 years, God has refused to measure the days and say to anybody, this is how much time is left. Something is going to happen here that is of such prophetic, biblical significance that God's going to pull the curtain back and say, count the days, count the days, count the days. Not years, count the days. And it's going to be very important, in the words of Ellen White, that God's people understand what these things will mean. And she says of these prophecies when this time comes, she says it in this way. These prophecies, listen, these prophecies, parentheses of the end, will soon interpret themselves by their plain, direct fulfillment in these last days. Guesswork's going to be taken out of it. Count the days. Now you can't do that if you don't know where the day count begins. You can't do that if you don't know where the day count ends. And the mystery of all of these times at the end are locked up secretly in the sanctuary. In the sanctuary. Sanctuary times. It's a pattern. It's a preview. And God has worked overtime to see that nobody understands it yet. If you've never read the 12th chapter of Daniel, in the original, the idea behind the original Hebrew and Aramaic in there, talking about Daniel chapter 12, this is what it really says. Shut up the words, Daniel, and seal the book, your book, even to the time of the end. Meanwhile, King James says, many will run to and fro. That's not the idea in the original. The idea in the original is many will turn back and forth in your visions. An understanding of your visions will be given. Light is going, I'm quoting, light is going to be given in the prophecies. Howbeit, when He, the Spirit of truth, is come, He will guide you into all truth. He will not speak of Himself, but whatsoever He is commanded, or whatever He is told, or whatever He hears, that's what He will speak. And He will show you what? Things to come. The purpose of the latter rain, one of the principal purposes, works of the latter rain, is to open the time of the end to the understanding. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be scary. So we've got measured days here. What we really want to focus on and really want to concentrate on right after we take this evening break and some fruit juice and whatever, refreshment, what we want to do is focus here. Why? Because everything that will be set in motion here determines what will take place for the 3.5 years. Everything. Everything. So I'm going to do this in 5 minutes, maybe 10. We'll take a break. You have to understand I'm on the receiving end of every kind of email that people can conjure up or send along. Brother Wheeling, I know you want to read this. Please call me after you read it and tell me what you think. I know this is the 125th phone call today, but I exaggerate a little bit. Not much. Now, do I appreciate people thinking of me when they see, read, or hear something that they think is prophetic? Yes, I do. I had several of those calls this week. And all I could say was, wow, I'm glad you found that. Bruce, I'm glad you found that. I'm glad you told me about that. I've got to go online and read that for myself. Brother Wheeling, this is what you've been telling folk for years and years and years, and here it is verbatim in print. Yes, I know. I got to read it. Thank you. So people share information. And we have to try and put it in the right pigeonhole. Where does this fit? Where does this belong? What is this all about? Well, of late, I have been inundated with Planet X. And I'm not going to go into years and years of people talking about Nibiru and Planet X and, and people call from time to time and they want some explanation. Brother Wheeling, what do you think about all of these sinkholes all over the world? It's unlike anything that we've ever seen in modern history, and it is. Well, I'm not about to say, well, it's planet X, because I would never get off the phone. So what I try to do is explain some simple geology, topography. With a bit of science, I try to explain as best I can what could make all of these sinkholes possible, plausible, meaningful, etc. And so I say, well, are you aware that the moon goes all the way around the earth? The earth doesn't go around the moon goes around the earth. You've got to be sure they understand that. You understand that the moon goes around the earth once every what?
30 days.
Thank you. Most folks say 24 hours. That's not the way it works, guys. The moon goes around the earth. Now, this is a fact. These are scientific, demonstrable facts. When the moon is going around the earth and it is directly overhead, oh, I'm looking up at you, full moon. You're directly overhead. What you're not aware of, but is reality, is that the ground under you and the trees planted along the side of the street and the automobiles and the houses and everything around you are rising 3.5 feet. Rising 3.5 feet when the moon is directly over your head. And it's going to go back down again. And it's up and it's down. Now you and I don't feel it. Why not? Because of what? Because of apparent motion. If you're in an automobile and the automobile is going 70 miles an hour, not looking outside, but feeling it bodily, do you feel how fast you're going? No, you don't. It feels like the telephone poles are moving. But they're not. They're standing still. It's you moving. It's called apparent motion. Please understand, if a massive body, that's all I say, if a massive body approaches Earth, even at a distance, according to its mass, its gravity, its attraction, as it passes over or near the surface of the earth, does this. Now the moon is one thing. The moon's not real heavy. You know all of that. It's not real heavy. But if you have a planetary body, or if you have a body that has tremendous mass, and that can be a brown dwarf sun, it can be whatever. It can be all kinds of heavenly objects. But if you have one and it is approaching Earth, the Earth is spinning under it. It's here, and it's not going around us. We're spinning under it. And as we do, its mass has a tendency to Are you listening? So I just explained sinkholes to you, because it always takes more dirt to fill the hole back. Doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it one more time. Global warming. Such a terrible thing. Global warming. And if you don't believe in global warming, then that's what they're trying to pass now. Well, let me tell you something, folks. I believe in global warming. It can be proven, it can be demonstrated that with each passing year, the ambient temperature of our rock is rising. But this is what is not said. Are you listening? Are you awake? You're past your nap. Listen. This is what is not said. Every planet, and there are 9 by some counts, in our solar system is heating. And it's all because of those Martians running too many cars around. We've told them, they won't listen. And the Saturnians, they ought to be ashamed of themselves. Every planet in our solar system is heating. Now you have to work it out scientifically how that is possible. What could possibly make that possible? And don't say, well, the sun is getting hotter. It's a long way from the sun to Saturn and Jupiter and Uranus and Neptune and on and on and on. It's a long way. They're not heating up because the sun is heating up. But if you have an object massive enough, I didn't say large enough. Have you ever picked up just a chunk of lead? It's only, but it's heavy. That's mass. It is possible that some object is entering our solar system through or out of the Oort cloud, and I'm not going to go into all of that, but let me tell you, there is evidence, increasing evidence that something is stirring the Oort cloud. There is something moving through the Oort cloud that is nearest our solar system, and it seems to be approaching us. When I say us, I'm talking about our solar system. And if it's heavy enough, frictional heating will occur. Now, a few years ago, and we'll give you the break. A few years ago, one of my science journals did a write-up. Men who worked with supercomputers to try and analyze what would happen if an object should come into the inner solar system, that we're part of the inner solar system, okay? If an object should enter our solar system and be massive enough to be captured by our sun. So they took a hypothetical and they plugged it into the supercomputer. And you'll be real interested in what the results said. Okay? This is not off the wall. This is what the supercomputer said. If this object entered our solar system, crossing our solar system, if it passed near enough our sun would capture it. And it would take, please listen, about 3.5 years to come back. And that would be the end of Mardi Gras. Do you understand? Our planet is dying. It's on the way to dead. It's dying. We have polluted ourselves off the rock. Disease of every kind and imaginable yet to come are killing us off the rock. Well, we're living longer. Yes, so we can all die at once. By the way, that is the picture that is painted in the Bible. Dead bodies everywhere and no one to bury them. Where have the saints gone? Where have all the bad guys gone? Our planet is dying. Jesus comes at a rescue moment to save a remnant of the human family so that not all flesh shall die. Jesus comes at a rescue moment. The only problem with Jesus coming at a rescue moment is that His arrival kills off everybody else. Slain, it says, by the brightness of His coming. So have it whatever way you want. The planet is dying. And you and I believe with everything in me, that have come to the kingdom for such a time as this. I do.